Andrew, thanks for being on the show. I guess a natural place to start, like today you're receiving a bunch of accolades, right? Like Fast 50 and growth and etc. But it's been 8 years, right, of grinding and building. So I want to go back to the beginning of Stay22, the inception, right? So would you want maybe walk us through the idea that sparked the company?
Sure, the overnight success that we've been through, right? Yeah, so 8 years in making. At first, the product was made for the end user. So it was a map-based solution showing accommodation, something about hotel, hostel, short-term rental. And this was meant for attendees of events, something about South by Southwest or CES. Usually it's super hard to find accommodation nearby. And you have to call the place, try to find, go on kayak, try to open Google Map and find how nearby it is. And is there a river that you need to cross? So this is how State Radio was born.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, quite the pivot. Can you walk us through maybe those early years? Because like you said, 8 year to overnight success. And then we could probably include the what happened during COVID with travel and everything. So your initial idea is like, hey, we want to target end users that are going to South by Southwest, for instance. At what point did you realize that path was not yielding, let's say, results and that you had to like explore different forks in the road?
Not so long, actually. So my co-founder, Ahmed Al-Kabaz, was the one that came with the original idea. And it was in a mindset of let's build it and it will come. And my mindset was the opposite. So every single company I've raised or launched was exactly about the distribution. So I'm a big fervent of that. If you find a distribution channel, whatever type of product you sell, you'll be able to win the market because this is what we care mostly about. And as soon as we launched that B2C solution for people, so they go on fit22.com, write down the name of their event, and after this, find accommodation. It didn't make sense because they could have go directly to Kayak, Trivago, or Google. So coming from an entertainment background, having owned a ticketing platform previously, I knew exactly what to do. I'm like, I'm going to reach out to my previous competitor in Quebec and Canada, tell them now I have an ancillary service that will provide them more data, more revenues, and improve the user experience. And from the get-go, we decided to distribute inventory directly with events and ticketing.
So an affiliate essentially for events, right? Was the
Exactly.
Was the focus always on travel or because I know obviously today it's very much travel, right? So did you go from events, et cetera, to travel? Like, how did that happen?
No, it was only about accommodation in first place. And now 8 years later, we're actually looking to expand outside of it. So it took me 6 years to move outside of accommodation. Now we also offer parking, restaurants, tourism activities, so travel related. And in 2025, we'll actually be moving into consumer good. So that they need the first time stepping outside of it.
Interesting. Yeah. Maybe it's a good time to explain what State 22 does and maybe at a deeper level, right? I'm relatively familiar with the affiliate space, but yeah, maybe give us a quick pitch if that's okay, Andrew.
Of course. So think about every single content creators around the world. Those people are working 9 to 5 and probably on the weekend or during holidays will travel and they're going to take content out of it. So what they usually love to do is write down on their blog. They like to take pictures, do a video montage and put it on YouTube and online. And this is their core. They're really good at it. But when it comes down to monetizing their platform, let's say website, this is where it's getting more noisy. So what Stitch really does is actually take the ownership of their platform of choice, YouTube or website. And from there, we're going to optimize every single opportunities for them to run affiliation. So specific keywords, image, videos, it will make sure that every single user has the best experience by showing them exactly what they're looking into. Between, as I mentioned, maybe it's going to be a hotel, maybe it's going to be a tourism activities, maybe it's going to be a restaurant or the next destination.
Interesting. Yeah. So I used to be good at this space, but it's been very long. So like for instance, like I remember Commission Junction, right? CJ was like a big affiliate like platform, right? And
Yeah.
then you'd have agencies like the guys at OPM Pros, for instance, that were more a service provider. So you guys have built a platform essentially like in one particular niche. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly. So we sit above those. So we can actually work with CJ, Rakuten, and Pack as well. But the main component about Stay22 is the technology, is the ease of use. Back then, content creator had to create their own link and go on like multiple provider, trying to find which is the best fit. But they're not good at it and it's not going to use over time. They're much better create content. So they use Stay22 as a way to actually take their ownership for them. So they don't have to worry anymore about how to optimize things, what type of link they should provide, or the user preferring book.com or Expedia. They don't have to worry about anything anymore. We take care of it for them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So you almost then try and optimize the yield to a certain extent, right? So you're trying to find the best payout per link in essence.
You got it.
So how does that work on the back end? Like, how do you then determine whether you should be pointing to an Expedia or to a booking.
Yeah. So it used to be manually. So back then it was like, okay, if the user is based in Amsterdam, travelbooking.com will make more sense. But if they're based in the States, Expedia will be better. But for the past about 18 months, since the new LLM has been available and much easier to use, and now we're using Gemini and a bit of Cloud as well to run most of it. So obviously with 2 billion data point, it's impossible for us to figure this by ourselves. We just use a model to tell the user whatever they think is going to be better and just keep improving and learning. So with time, we're able to offer better alternatives that provide a better yield for the creator.
So if I explain it back simply, and then please correct me here. I'm a travel blogger. I have a significant following, for instance. I'll create YouTube videos and articles. And then I just basically implement your product on my website, which is pretty easy from what I've seen. And then you automatically or auto magically create affiliate links. And then me as a content creator just sit back and basically collect. So based on that, on the traffic I'm getting, that generates X dollars per link. And then your business model itself is entirely just performance based, right? So you're not charging the travel blogger, the content creator, like a monthly fee, etc. Just hey,
Nothing.
if the user, the end user ends up signing up for a trip, that's when the content creator gets paid, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So basic affiliation model, but we extended to another level.
Okay, yeah, very cool. I'm very curious to double click on. You mentioned you're using LLMs to basically superpower your engine. Can you maybe explain a little bit more, like how, and since it's been literally 2 years of the ChatGPT anniversary, how does that work exactly?
Yeah. So let's use a website as an example. Right now, it's going to read everything on the content of the page. So based on the headers, like H1, H2 on the page, the script, the different title, every kind of component will be taken into account. And based on this, we'll be finding out missed opportunities. So maybe at one point they talk about the specific restaurants, but they didn't actually create a link for open table. Or they spoke about maybe a great train station that's helping out move from A to Z. And the same thing will happening about car rental, cruises, ride packages, and so on. And content creators are not taking the time to creatively or leverage every single one of those opportunities. So the LLM have to find out more than just a keyword. They have to find the perfect sentence, actually to hyperlight on top of it and just generate better opportunities for those people to generate cash. And that's how we've been using them so far.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And then in terms of, because I imagine the LLMs are not free, right? You're using an API from there.
It's expensive, especially for videos on YouTube. It is quite expensive.
So have you, like, how does that compare to the monetization gain on the back end? So like, how have you been able to better monetize versus like the now additional extra cost of using an LLM?
So it's already paying off for websites, so the return on investment has been positive. For YouTube, not yet. So we're launching a beta testing actually this month with more creators to test it out. But we cannot run it at scale because it is so expensive. We have to test it out before trying to scale it to another level.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say it's yeah, you can't just open the floodgates, right? So yeah, super interesting, man. Like I've been in your company, like you said, 8 years, and I remember some of the early days. Keep hearing about you now. It's like all the accolades are coming. Maybe walk us through slightly the darker period, right, of COVID, right? What happened there? Because as you can imagine, when it's illegal to leave the house, people are not booking flights, right? Now, how did you guys come out after that period? And now, obviously, it seems like stronger than ever.
Yeah. So back in February 19, the company was growing quite meaningfully. So we were growing about 4x every year. We were working with hundreds of events, a couple of ticketing platform as well. And everything was doing pretty well. So we raised our first fundraising at that moment. And even though the paperwork was signed, as soon as you can believe, a month after when they announced the COVID and they said, you know what, every travel is going to be restricted, we lost like 90% of revenues in a matter of days. I had to lay off more than 2/3 of the team to make it through. As you can guess, some investors decided to not send their money, even though they were legally bound to do so. At that time, I was definitely thinking back, like, is this a good use of my time? Shall we try to like pivot? Shall we stay here and hibernate till the markets recover? Or should we just wind it down and move to something else? Because time is of the essence here.
Man, that's great. That's a crazy story. Yeah, I was gonna say name and shame the investors that didn't send the money. That's up to you. And also the part of you sharing openly here about hey, like maybe you're a founder, you don't have that many shots on goal. If this is not working and this COVID thing lasts forever. So how'd you pull through? Like what tilted the decision to keep pushing, building?
Yeah. So a shooting came out through. So first off, we still had some money from an investor. So I'm like, either I return the money back or we shut down the company. we had that hard and honest conversation with them. Do you guys want us to return the funds, or are you guys good to give us some leeway getting there? And most of them were good with it. So we move on to the next step. We decided to sit down with our team and run some brainstorming session about what should we do now? Should we launch a new product in a different landscape? Should we work with the same customer base, but launch something new that's going to be incremental? And we came up with out of 8 different ideas with 3 different MVPs. We test out those MVPs on the market. One of completely shelved from the get-go, so that was good. The second one kind of worked, but it was not as scalable, so we had to let it go. And the third one that pivoted to the content creator world was like a genius move. And this is what actually stepped Race Stay22 to what we're doing right now. So I think back then we were doing $130,000 a month USD. And as of now, we're doing in October, I believe we did almost $3 million. So definitely somewhat of a meaningful growth since then.
Yeah, I was going to say $36 million run rate. It's not too bad, right?
Mhm.
That's interesting. Yeah. So the pivot to, the pitch we gave before about travel bloggers, that really happened out of, I would say necessity is maybe not the right word, but you saw what was happening with the pandemic, and how was it market by market, right? Because not all markets were closed, right? You could think of the states of Texas, to Florida, and so you launched across the board, and then basically focused on where travel was allowed, and then from now you're basically where it's obviously been back for a while now.
It was more per necessity, as you mentioned. So at first, we wanted to talk with people that wanted to talk with us. So nobody in the content creator world knew about Stay22, but we're coming from the event industry. So guys, we want to listen to your problem, talk to us about your needs. Let's try and see if there's opportunities right there. And the first 2 people that accepted to talk with us, like actually gave us so much insight about the industry. They're like, okay, now we know there's something. We know there's a true pain point. Can we actually bring a painkiller solution right there? Instead of bringing for a vitamin to painkiller, and it took us another 6 months to get to that solution. So by that point, we're in March of 2021. And we're like, cool. We work with content creators. We're having meaningful traction. We're almost back to the same stage as we were pre-COVID. I'm like, let's hire more people and make it work. And in March 2021, I lose my main provider, which was Airbnb back then, and represent more than 80% of revenues. For a year, almost day for day, I'm like, okay, what is going on? Is this kind of life is telling me that I should move on to something else?
Wow. Yeah. So that's a crazy pivot where it's like you had like basically one big enterprise customer, and now you've pivoted to, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of SMB partners, essentially, or customers, right? So today you're like, your ICP is the travel blogger, the travel content creator. It's not Airbnb anymore. Maybe hopefully they're back, but so yeah, you're back serving down the individual essentially.
Exactly. And it's so much better as well, because what I love to do is help people. And if you tell me, like, can I help a ticketing platform for an event increase their bottom line by 2 points? It's good, but like, it's not going to shit well. But every single day, next, like, I help people leave their job or 9 to 5 boring job to actually go on the road and live their passion and travel the world and create content as it goes. Like, I do care about this. And more than 5,000 partners are working with us as of now. And they're showing us like, well, message and telling us how helpful we are. And now we actually help them like survive those days and thrive. And like, this is feeling so good, man. Like in terms of like mission and like getting empowered, there's nothing driving me in the morning more than this.
Yeah, yeah, helping a big corporation make 3% more EBITDA. It's like, it's okay, but yeah, helping people live their dream. And so you gave a sense of scale of thousands of partners. Like maybe it's a more like addressable market question. Like how many people do this? And I imagine it's also very fluid, right? Where some people like might do it for a few years and then go back into the job market. But I imagine like it must be an expanding pie.
Yeah, it is an expanding pie. It's hard to mention exactly the time because everyone is a content creator. Like you are a content creator yourself, and many more people are getting into that list, especially with the new generation. Like those kids want to become influencer. They want to be able to travel. They would like to be able to get some sponsor deals that goes. So as you can expect, they don't want to work at McDonald's and flip burger anymore. They want to be able to run their own timeline and be more flexible. So it's definitely an expanding market as it goes.
Yeah. You mentioned expanding out of accommodations, and I'm curious, like any thoughts? Or maybe podcasters like me, like give me some of that sweet affiliate revenue, but
Yeah.
thoughts about yeah, how you get out and into like adjacent markets.
So after being able to complete the travel related with like tourism activities, parking, restaurants, and so on, one thing that came to your mind is like, we've been at it for 8 years. We're reaching more than 2 billion users a year, but we're only selling them like non-digital, a digital product was for cruises, flight, and so on. But I'm pretty sure those people that are traveling are also looking for consumer goods. Think about luggage, cosmetics, sun lotions, bathing suits, and so on. So why not decide to work with some of those brands and just be able to offer those same type of inventories? So I'm happy to tell you that in 2025, we test out and there's definitely a need for those people. So we'll be moving into retail as a next year. And I'm super excited about that.
Oh, man, that's wild. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, like, it makes me think more classic affiliate, but
Like
you're happy.
this year, we'll be reaching almost $500 million of sales just of travel items. Think about what the TAM and the appreciate will be able to reach and how much more better position will be to help those content creators pay their bills and increase their volume and e-commerce platform by offering much more than just travel. So definitely a new era for us.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I saw that stat, right? 500 million GMV and pops out
Yes.
pretty pretty big on the page. And then when you look at total GMV of all retail, like it's obviously massive. Have you thought of any specific niches, or is it because your platform is really it's a horizontal play to a certain extent, right? You don't differentiate the types of travel, right? I imagine it's not as necessary. So yeah, maybe poking to understand is there like a vertical that makes sense or not?
We're testing multiple stuff as of now. So it's a matter of knowing like which one will have the better conversion rate. So maybe cosmetic will be better for one because it's a lotion. It's an easy item to purchase. It's not very expensive. Everybody going to some through a sun destination needed. Or we can look in terms of what the average order value. So luggage will be like once in a lifetime, once every maybe 5 years like purchase. Better commission out of this, but you will not purchase as many of them because of this is to be a higher intent purchase. So we're running multiple tests right now to see which vertical will be the best fit for partners, but also the users.
Yeah, very cool, man. You mentioned financing. I'd be remiss to ask, how do you think about external financing today? Is it something that's necessary for you, or do you think about turbocharging even more? Like, yeah, just curious to get your thoughts.
Sure. So as of now, super glad that for the past like 18 months we've been profitable, which is taking a whole burden off my shoulder. Like you have no clue how much better I sleep at night right now. So this is still really good. But do we need to get faster to the market? Do we feel like some incumbent can run there? Is there more competition over getting market share? Or can I just run this as a bootstrap company like moving forward? I'm asking the same question pretty much every day. I don't have the answer, but I'm looking at every single one of those opportunities and I'm always thinking back. Should we consolidate the market? Should we work with people, do acquisition of like competitive or opportunistic companies in that space as well? I don't have the answer, but I'm looking at every single one of those things. But it's easier for us now that we're in that state that we're massively profitable versus what we were just like, 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So congrats on the P word, profits. It's not always easy. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, like maybe to riff on this a bit, it makes me think of, I think you're doing the right thing, like keeping your options open and while you're profitable, while there's no rush. So I think it's your own personal motivation of what you want to do. Do you want to have headache with VCs on your board causing you headaches? I think makes me think a little bit of the example of the local example of like luxury retreats, right? Where they were like super profitable. Joe was running a very profitable enterprise. And then they ended up raising with Inovia and led them down the path of doing a pretty successful exit.
We're good
In the,
deal. Else.
that's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And so I had the pleasure of working a little bit with the team over there in Joe, and so, yeah, it was a super great company and you didn't need the money, but it was one that gave them optionality after. So I think you're doing the right thing. It's like, I think the strategic choices in front of you, like you said, expanding into new markets will dictate a little bit. And again, if you don't need it, if you're profitable, then,
For once, I have the leverage versus being on the opposite like side of the share. So that definitely feel better. But raising money is a partnership. I'm sure people told you about this in the past, but like you got to be certain you guys will go to war together. And it's definitely not easy. So you want to make sure those people will have aligned interest and be able to go for the long run.
yeah, 100%, 100%. I want to talk a little bit about your journey as a founder. Right? This is like, not your first rodeo, as you mentioned. And I imagine you get solicited by other founders that are looking for advice. And hey, how did you figure it out? I did it always. Any insights, any tips that you give, like at a broader level? And then I want to maybe also poke more tactically in terms of your managerial style. But yeah, maybe just some broad insights now that you're reflecting upon, hey, things are going well and I could sleep. Any lessons that you've learned?
So I did bring the Kool-Aid from day one. Okay. So think about like accelerator, incubator, the Peter Thiel of this world, the founder school, being able to go with the startup school, YC, like I drink the Kool-Aid from the get-go. Maybe it was good, maybe it wasn't, but like this is what got us to where we are as of now. I know there was a lot of discussion about founder mode not so long ago. So some people approve, some people don't. I'm a big fan of asking for advice. Like I've been sitting out with coffees and Montreal entrepreneur and people in the province and abroad, like since day one, because I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like people that been there, done that, either through achievement or failure, can provide me with so much advice and insight. Where can I use them? And I'm doing the same thing today. Like every single person reach out to me, I'm always happy to grab a coffee with them, get on a call, because this is what we need to grow the ecosystem. So if people are just thinking by themselves on their own and not trying to give back to the community, I feel like they're definitely well leveraging that. And my goal as an entrepreneur is to help other entrepreneurs, and that's my way of being able to give back.
Yeah, that's great. But I think part of it's like, I appreciate you doing the podcast because hopefully some people listen. You've grown a team, I think 60 people when I read online. So you're obviously managing a bigger team. How do you approach your like your strategy and your execution, right? So how do you think about setting big goals and then managing those goals? Do you use OKRs? And we could go as geeky as you want here, but I always find it interesting topic of okay, what's the operating system, right? Like how do you make it work? There's a million different styles, which I find fascinating because there's not one formula. I'd like to know what's your formula.
Of course, and all of this development. So we've looked into multiple of those processes back in 2019, like while the company was growing 4x over a year. And after looking to Gazelle and Tours, we decided to work with the EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, where we have the visionary integrator, and then you have the rocks, whatever rocks OKR is the same thing. And we were able to expand this across the full team as of now. And yeah, it's definitely one of those things that it managed to get the company to that stage. But to give you an example, Victorious, like I was talking with fellow founders not so long ago, talking about what is your goal for next year? And most of them are like, oh, we're going to do 25% of growth or 30% or 5%. And I'm always asking the question back, like, why not more or less? And the same answer I always come back, like, this is the amount I did last year. I would like to do the same thing again. So they're always using the same assumption of, oh, this is normal. This is what we're able to do, instead of starting from the bottom up and saying, let's say we want to reach like 400% of growth. Is it possible? We will have to lay you on the table. How would like company will be impacted? And this is what we do with Stay22. So we do a bottom up and a top down approach to try to exactly see where do we fit in there, and how the strategy can actually move us faster and better to that stage. But it's not the right or wrong answer. It's just a different way of doing things.
Yeah, like you said, it always depends, and there's no right or wrong. Like you mentioned, Peter Thiel. I like the approach he has of, okay, if you had to, you have a 10-year big goal, right? Like a big, ambitious, hairy goal. But what if you have to do it in 6 months? What does that mean? Or is, shit. Okay, so that forcing function of what it would take. And another point you mentioned I find interesting is the goal you set is your barriers, your own mental model. If I want to do 10% growth this year, which is completely fine. I'm not bashing the goal, but sometimes it could be limiting if you want to have high growth, but you set yourself the smaller one, thinking a little bit outside the box of what's possible. I think that opens up different areas to explore.
In your role, yes. I'm having people from outside as well, like challenging you in your leadership team or executive or C-level can definitely help you get to that next stage too. Instead of hiring people who are just as good as you or like lower than you, be players, having those like high achiever getting in and like trying to mess with your plan, I think that's one amazing way to actually improve yourself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. On that topic then, so how do you think about culture, right? So maybe, and take it any way you want, it could be a physical, digital kind of like presence, and also how you think about creating cultural moments. So I'll let you answer it.
It is what I spend probably most of my time on. It is really hard. So back in the days, we made a mistake of hiring too many people at the same time. I think we were like 20-ish and we hired 6 people. And obviously this is like one-fourth of the company. And those people were not getting embedded into the company properly. So thinking back, I'm like, now let's fix this and make sure we don't do that same mistake again. For the past 6 months, we've been hiring one person on average. So we still got a high growth, but we're not hiring a batch of people of 7 people at a time. Even if it will be easier and better to go through because it's only one onboarding, it feels so much better because each of those people are stepping into the company and understanding what is possible and what is acknowledged or frowned upon. And it's so much faster for me in terms of culture. But it is hard. Like the culture got to be lived and breathed by every single person in the company. And if you're not the ones fighting for it day after day and promoting it, it's going to go down the drain. And I think this is one of the things I'm most proud of. Every single time people are coming back to me or after the Christmas party and telling me like, you guys, you're in the Mad drove an amazing culture. Like you should be proud of this. People love working here. And like everyone makes change job for anything in the world. Like that, nothing that drive my heart warmer than this.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, like You said it's like building a team of high performers, as you mentioned, like A players is it can be fun, right? Where you give people leeway. You mentioned founder mode, right? Whereas I find it's like it's just I find the concept is it's interesting, but it's very superficial at the same time, right? It's okay being diligent and making sure people get shit done, right? So like, but how do you approach the tension of high performers, let them run versus well, I'm a founder and I want to trust but to verify. How do you draw the line? Is it something even a concept that you think about or not?
It took me a while to figure it out. So I've been wanting since day one to empower people around me and give them as much freeway as I could. And it's possible only to a certain extent. We hire those people, we trust them from the get-go, from day one. Here's all the context from the enterprise. Here's the vision, and here's where we really want to be. Like, find a way to get there. Now that we have the strategy fixed, like tactical will be on you. And it did work, but not 100%. So like that founder touch, as you're going to talk about, like screwing up with someone roadmap, trying to challenge the status quo, jumping into customer interview, like this is where we see we can actually add value, me and my co-founder. But it ain't hard because at the same time, we don't want to push people and say, you know what, you're not doing your job properly. I need as a founder to step above. So it needs to be reframed about, I'm here to support you in your progress. I'm here to remove all the blockers. But at the same time, if I think there's a missed opportunities right there, let me try to help you out move faster. And it's honest. Every time me and my co-founder get involved in a project, the speed of like traction is 10x. But it's also because we're the founder, we can play that card. We're just not allowed to use it every week. So I feel like it's like we have 5 bullets during the year, give or take. So pull it, but make sure you hit it. Because if you miss 3 of them in a row, like people will start not trusting you anymore and you're going to lose the respect. So you got to still use that bullet like wisely and not use it for every single position to fight.
It says, yeah, because otherwise you lose credibility a little bit with your team if you're like pulling it all the time and then it devolves into micromanagement, it feels like. If you, that's very interesting. It's very good insight, Andrew. Very good insight. Maybe I was just about to talk about travel a bit, the space, right? Because I find it's a fascinating, like everyone talks about it, like obviously LLMs and the AI, it's a hot topic, of course. And a common example that comes is, oh, in the world of agents, I'm just going to ask my ChatGPT, book me a flight from, I want to go to Paris for Christmas or whatever, and it's going to all do it and it'll be done, right? And that potentially might intermediate, right, the travel blogger. But at the same time, I think there's an argument that actually probably empowers content creators even more because people crave authenticity. I could imagine with you, Dada, what side you fall on, but curious to hear about how you think about the future of this space because it still is pretty fluid today.
Yeah, I have a bias. So obviously being in a space and I'm at my company, but I think Brian Chessy was one that framed it really well. Travel is a special beast. You can use LLM and Perplexity any day to help you out with the itinerary. So you want to see like how much time should I spend, whether it's a direct flight, here's my budget. Like I think this is an amazing tool to help you out get the general surrounding. But when it comes to travel, data have shown that more than half of the pleasure actually comes from the planning process than actually living it. Can you believe that? People enjoy more planning it for weeks, if it's not months, than actually being there on the spot. And part of planning is actually doing your own work. So what type of activities will you be over there? Once you know in which city, you're probably going to look on different content creators to see what type of vibe I'm looking for as well. So I see that LLM are really good in terms of optimizing it and giving you a good surroundings. But when it comes to the final decision, I don't know no one that you're going to public credit card and say, LLM, perfect, book me for a week in Spain, enough wine, 4 stars hotel, and bonos, like that's it. Like it's impossible to some extent. People want to be accountable and own this because this is who they are. Like travel is a big part of who you are as a person.
Yeah, indeed. Or at least maybe the business travel part, like I see it as, oh, if I'm just doing a flight to Toronto, it's like I really don't care if I'm the cheapest flight, etc., or cheapest hotel close to the office. But your annual family trip, that, like you said, it's the expectation of it.
Like your friends would be trust, like your active, your friends, like $4,000 budget once a year experiences, you like trust it. Maybe you should billionaire, you know, put as much importance to it. But as regular people, they're working 9 to 5, 50 hours, 50 weeks, 50 weeks a year. Believe me, those 2 weeks got to be 100% great. And you will not trust anyone other than yourself or maybe an agent to go ahead with the planning.
Yeah, interesting, man. What are you most excited about in the next phase, right? As you think about the next 8 years, maybe? What jazzes you today?
So the first one is the expansion outside of the website. So because of the Google Core update that happened in March of this year, if we face another crisis, like another 35% of reviews went down, We had some content creator that decided to fold completely because they lost too much revenue because of Google. For us, it's about reaching the content creator where they are. So social media is the first step, and we're starting with YouTube. So I'm excited about this, but all for sure is by itself. We need to empower them wherever they are. And number two is expansion that I mentioned. So like travel today, retail tomorrow, the world next. There's content creators, it's not going to go away. And most of them don't have the energy, the bandwidth, or the mental capacity to waste time on like affiliation. I would like actually to help them increase their revenues for all the content they might have. So that might be through advertising, sponsored content, affiliation, you name it.
Yeah, very exciting, man. Is there anything that keeps you up at night? Like things that, like obviously, like you said, you're sleeping well. So maybe it's a wrong question, but think about your key challenges today, right?
Keeping the culture as we grow. A lot of people told me like after 50 it's going to get harder. After 100, it's almost impossible. I think this is what like stressed me out. I told my team I never wanted to grow more than 50 people team because this is what I can control. So I lost that battle already. Now I'll try to do the same thing for 100 and we'll see. And number two, yeah, once in the culture, it's about keeping our partners in the best interest. But it's hard with all the stakeholders between investors and suppliers and customers, employee, keeping them at their core, making sure we can actually answer the real problem and not creating product for the sake of it is also what we spend most of our time. What like she, my co-founder, most of his time on.
Andrew, man, I feel like I could bug you for another hour. And it's like in these like 35 minutes ish, it's like you've shared like so many good insights, man, but I want to be respectful for your time. I guess final question, if people want to reach out to you, chat, or just follow you on social media, what's the best way?
Sure. I'm just a regular entrepreneur. So reach out to me on my email at andrew@stay22.com or in LinkedIn. We're RAs for multiple positions as well. So if you guys are looking for a great job in an amazing scale up environment, feel free to apply.
Great plug, great plug. I love it. Okay, Andrew, thanks so much for your time, man.
Got a pleasure, Nectar. Thanks.
Merci.